Welcome to Hello Kind Soul Podcast, where we raise the vibration of kindness on a global scale. I'm Dr. Ebony Green, your host, and I'm super excited to be with you today. If you want to follow us on all major platforms, look us up at Hello Kind Soul Podcast. And if you want to follow me, look me up at E Green Equity. I hope you enjoy the episode. Have a great day. Welcome to Hello Kind Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Green. I'm so excited to be in community with you today. And we have a very amazing special guest with us, Dr. Tiffany Jana, who is one of my closest friends. We have been friends since we were 17. We won't tell you our age, but friends since 17. They are an amazing human, and they are absolutely one of the most amazing writers that I know. So they've authored numerous books, numerous blogs, and are known as an international expert in the area of DEI. And so they're going to spend some time with me chopping it up around what does kindness look like in the workspace. So welcome, Dr. Jana, to Hello Kind Soul Podcast. Super happy to be in community with you.
Yay, Dr. Ebony Green, one of my favorite people.
So one of the things I just feel like we will have an amazing conversation around, which is why I reached out and was like, hey, you've spent decades of your life really working to improve workspaces across the globe. And so I'm curious from your perspective, like what does that look like? What does kindness in a workspace look like, feel like, and sound like? So that our listeners really can get a feel of how does this need to be created or established so that folks can show up and really be cared for?
So my focus was through the DEI lens, and that covered organizational culture, right? And so what we look for is an organizational culture, a group of people who can work together cohesively without causing each other harm. Like when I think about, you think about the memes around Monday morning and how everybody drags themselves into work and they don't want to go. It's not usually the work that they have a problem with. That people usually select into very often as possible, working in a field, doing something that they're either good at or they enjoy. It's not the work that's a problem. It's their supervisors that's a problem. It's their colleagues that are the problem. And it's because they are generally made to feel insignificant, small, unappreciated, disrespected, etc. So if you start with what does the toxicity in the workplace look like and feel like, that is something that way too many of us have a solid frame of reference for. It is one of the things that pushes many of us out of the workplace and into entrepreneurship. And so what kindness looks like in the workplace is it looks like all of the things that we do to encourage, one, leaders to be able to see, respect, and appreciate the people who they are actually leading, because in most workplaces, leaders get promoted based on their technical competency, not based on their ability to lead, to inspire, to motivate people. And so we have to train people to it's sad. We have to train people how to be nice. You have to train people how to be respectful. You have to train people how to care in the workplace. Because if it's your cousin, your brother, your sister, your daughter, your niece, you automatically have some things built in where you care more. But there's something about the way that our minds bifurcate like ethics and reality when it's the workplace. People feel like they have some kind of a past to be cold, to be disrespectful, to not care about what so-and-so is going. I don't care what you're going through. Just give me the email I asked for. I don't care what you're going through. Just give me that deliverable. And that is not the way that it should be. Kindness in the workplace means not only do I get to show up and be who I am in my fullness and the fullness of my expression, my gender, my orientation, whatever that is, but I also get to be a real human being with thoughts and feelings that matter. And I'm not going to be made to feel diminished because I'm having problems at home, or because I'm having an off day, or because I maybe can't get that deliverable in. Even if your performance is not ideal, there's a way to manage that with kindness and gentleness versus making people feel like they are objects. We are not cogs in a machine. And so kindness is recognizing the humanity in each other and lifting that up and allowing it to be as sacred and important as it actually is.
I love that. There are a few words that you said that kind of sat with me. The first one is not causing harm, right? And I think there are these moments where we overcomplicate that. It is really and I say we overcomplicate it because I think there was a time, I think we're in that time, but there was always a time where how you made people feel was disconnected to leadership. And so I've always kind of said to people, there's a difference between leaders and managers. Like leaders have voluntary followers. Managers have people who follow them because there's no other option, right? But they're very different. And so when we think about this notion of kindness and we think about being connected to like not causing harm, I'm curious for you, like when we're thinking about leadership and as many leaders as you've seen, you have been a leader. And I know that in your practice, you always were really intentional about how you treated people around you, people who worked for you, et cetera. So can you share with me, like, what is some of the mindset around like how caring for people leads to higher outcome, which I think is something that people don't tell the truth about. So share with us, like, how does caring about people and centering their wellness, their humanity first, lead us to higher outcomes?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exquisite, and I also think it's very intuitive. I think that somehow it's the Industrial Revolution model that messed us up, where we were really quantifying how people move their bodies and how much break time, like the way that Amazon runs things is based on productivity, versus, for instance, like I started with the unlimited paid time off thing really early in the process. And the job basically the thinking was, if you hire a grown adult people who are responsible and know what they need to do, that no one should have to take their sick days to go and care for an ailing parent, right? People should be able to have the opportunity to responsibly manage their workload and also their lives. And we shouldn't have to dictate how many days we think it's going to take to do that. People should just be able to, we should respect them enough that they can just take care of their lives. So, we had a lot of really generous policies. Like I'm a person who had suffered, 7 different pregnancy and infant losses. And so it was very easy for me to write into my policies that should you have a stillbirth, a miscarriage, an abortion, I don't care whether it's by nature or by choice, but something like this happens in your life, that is devastating. I don't care what your spiritual beliefs are. As a human being, to lose a pregnancy is a hard thing to do. So it is explicitly written in my handbook that if this happens to you, I don't expect you to show up for work for at least 2 weeks. Like you could come in if you wanted to, but I'm letting you know that there is no expectation that you come in, and that time is allotted for you for that specific purpose. And people should have the spaciousness to be able to allow life to happen in ways that we can't even anticipate. So what happens is, like we would start all of our meetings with a genuine check-in to see how people are. Like, I want to hear about your little cat. I don't even love cats that much. I'm a dog person, but I know that you love your fur baby as much as I love my people baby. And if the story of how your cat is doing is what you want to share, seeing that and allowing space for it communicates to you that you matter, your life matters, the things that matter to you matter to me. So then when something's actually going on with that cat and you've got to take time off, that cat's not a stranger to me because you're part of my family. You're part of my extended family. And that sounds so woo-woo to say, but how are we going to spend the vast majority of our time within the context of workplaces and not feel like these people that we're surrounded with are at least extended family, if not closer than that? So what happens is when you communicate in a multitude of different ways across time that you genuinely care about people's well-being, the loyalty that engenders by itself is something that I've never seen the likes of it. Like, you can make people go away when they feel that they are safe to show up, that they are safe to not be well. Like, you don't have to perform wellness and, oh, everything's fine, I'm doing great. No, you can come in and be having an off day, and that's okay. We'll hold space for that, because one day I'm going to have an off day. And if I allowed you to be off kilter, then maybe you'll allow me to do the same. And then the other thing that happens is when you have a system that's based on caring. So what happens if you have unlimited paid time off and people take all this time off? Well, the work is going to be there when you get back. And if the work needs to be done while you're gone, you have to have a strong enough relationship with your colleagues that people will pick it up for you. And it's not about mandating that it gets picked up. It's about working as a symbiotic team and saying, we win together or we fail together. And there is no like weakest link. If we're doing this together and we're treating each other with the respect and dignity that we deserve, then we figure out how to make it happen. And those things happen nearly seamlessly when everyone feels like they are genuinely respected and cared for.
So good. So good. All right. So I had another question, but based on what you said, it made me think about, right? There are a lot of people who say a lot of things. And I'm always toying in my mind with this, part of the company line where my company is like aligning your words to actions, right? And so because I know you, I actually know you're telling the truth. But for some people, like when you say this, they're like, yeah, but you may say that, but how do people know that, right? And so break that down for me. Help me understand, and not just in your company, right? Or because across the globe, there are people who will say like, oh, well, we care about our staff, but there's like a disconnect, right? So the staff's like, yeah, we could take unlimited sick time, but not really. So what has to happen that I feel that when Dr. Jana says, I can do this thing, I can go do this thing without the weight or worry that when I come back, there's some sort of retaliation because I had the audacity to take care of my family or look after my mom or, do this thing to heal. Like, how do you help people understand that you actually mean what you're saying?
Because I modeled it. And I expected the level of leadership beneath me to model it. So it's not just, oh, the CEO disappears and goes and takes time. I'm asking you, because so here's what happened. When I first put in the unlimited paid time off, what statistically tends to happen is what happened. And that is that people actually took less than the standard 2 weeks off. Because you're right, they didn't believe it. And so I was like, cute, that's funny. So what I did next was I said, there's a 30-day minimum days off with no maximum. And by saying 30-day minimum days off, what I did was I shut the company down for 30 days. You ain't got to go home, but you can't come here. And that was like the week of like, well Christian centric holidays, people can take whatever holidays they want, but our world over here tends to revolve around that. So the week of Christmas, most people aren't, if they're celebrating Christmas or they're having people over during that holiday season, they're not really at work. Their minds are on the roast that they're going to make and the family that they're going to avoid. So we were off the week of Christmas. We were off the full week of New Year's. We were off the full week of Thanksgiving. And then we were off if it was a federal holiday and it looked like that was something that could be celebrated, we were off. Right. And so when people could anticipate that during these, these high seasons where time tends to be concentrated around family and holidays, that we were going to be shut down, then they didn't have to feel guilty about taking time to go to their sister's wedding because they knew that they were going to be off. And I worried for a minute, but I went to my clients and I said, hey, we're going to be just to let you know, in order to allow my team to recharge and refresh, we're pretty much shut down for the months of November and December. We're pretty closed, right? I never had a client push back on that. They thought it was amazing. They thought it was good modeling, and they were trying to figure out how they could institute that. And I, for my part, because I'm a writer and a parent and all the other things, I modeled the unlimited time off I started taking sabbaticals that were pretty significant. So I was off the month of March to write. I was off the months of November and December. One was for family and one was for travel. And so I would take these large pieces of time off so that people could see that could be done and not feel guilty about taking their time. So then when they started scheduling vacations to go to cool places around the world, they didn't feel bad at all because they knew that that was okay.
I love that. And so the key, right, is modeling, right? Like I have to see the big boss do it for me to know I'm good. And I need to see the boss do it and the boss require me to do it, right? Because there are some folks that say, do as I say, not as I do. And so for some people, the boss is doing it, but they know we can't do what the boss does. So I love the idea of like, not only am I going to go do this thing and show you that when I say your wellness matters and I need you to take care of you because the best version of you pours into this company and makes us even better, I'm also going to require it in these ways. And so not just alongside modeling it, but really creating the precedent to say, here's the new policy that aligns to what I'm saying, that then requires you to really think about what you're going to do. And you don't have to go home, but you can't come here, which I love, right?
And depending on the layers of leadership you have, like if the organization is really big and the CEO disappears, nobody notices and they don't think they can do what the CEO does. But if your immediate supervisors, right, if the people who are just above you are not only doing these things, but also saying at your annual, performance review, and your performance review shouldn't be annual. They should be more frequent than that. So you know how you're doing along the way. But at your periodic check-ins, one-on-ones, that person needs to say, so, when you taking time off, I notice it's been a while since your last vacation. You got something planned? That speaks volumes.
Yeah, I love that. Listen, there's so many good nuggets in this. So here's the other thing. I guess my thought is okay, so there are a lot of people I know, some that I judge, some that I don't judge, but I definitely judge some people silently because they are people who really believe they're being great leaders and they're not. And, who am I? I think this idea of being able to hear critical feedback about your performance makes you the best version of you. But I think all of us are on a leadership journey. So some people are really good at it and others are not. So I want you to help the people who think they're being great leaders, but are not, because they're not actually able to really extend that grace, extend that care, right? So when a leader's trying to figure out how do I really show and demonstrate to my constituency group that I really care about them, how do I do that? And I ask that question because I think there are some people who want to be that person, but are not hardwired that way. And certainly based on their training and their exposure and experiences, no one around them has ever actually led that for real. So what's your advice to those folks who are trying to figure out, okay, what are the first beginning steps to really pouring into my staff in a way that says, I see you, I care for you, and I need you to take your wellness seriously. What's your advice to those folks?
I see the 4 agreements sitting there on the top of that book stack right there on your table. I'm just like, perfect. Such good stuff. So the first thing to recognize is that I think that is one of the biggest challenges of leadership, to see and experience yourself the way that others see and experience yourself. Some people will go through an entire leadership career and never, ever have that. We can absolutely be self-deluded. So the first thing is the willingness and the recognition that is not innate nor simple. So it's not a given. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how intuitive you are. It is not a given that you know and experience yourself the way that others see and experience you. So 1, acknowledge it. 2, it's a listening thing, right? Because it reminds me of intent versus impact. We might do things in the world. We move through the world in certain ways. We might have really great intentions, but then find out that we've harmed people. What's more important, the good intentions that I had, or the fact that I hurt an actual breathing human being who matters, right? The impact really does matter.
Your
intent. Yeah, your intent can be great, but if you're hurting people, you're hurting people. So recognizing that if you are human, you are and have been probably causing harm. It's part of what we do. And so in order to understand the impact that you are having on others, you have to be willing to listen to them. So I'm a huge advocate of the 360-degree feedback, where we should not only be getting a performance review from the people we report to, we should be getting performance reviewed by the people who report to us, so that we can actually get a read on those experiences that people are having. And we have to move out of defensiveness, because the first thing, if leaders have done a lot to get to where they are, there's usually a little bit of pride and ego involved. And the minute somebody tells you that your poop does actually stink, it might hurt your little feelings. And good for you. I'm glad it hurts your little feelings, because that means that if your little feelings are hurt, that means that the very big feelings of the people who you have been presiding over in some capacity have been wounded for a period of time that is unbeknownst to you. So we have to listen to the feedback that we're getting, and we have to actually solicit that feedback. One of my favorite things that I have told every person who I ever hired got the same set of instructions, and that was this: I have gone to great lengths to make myself visible as a personal brand and personal values through my books, through my talks, through my way of moving through the world. And there's a particular thumbprint on what Dr. Tiffany Jana represents. And I said to every person I ever hired, if you ever catch me out here in these streets or in here behind these closed doors, behaving in a manner that is incongruous with who I say I am, I need you to tell me. I need you to tell me, because I won't see it. So I need you to hold me accountable to the person that I say I am and to the values that we're busy telling all these other organizations to live into. I can't be in here wrecking shop and telling other people how to do better. I think people were always surprised by it. And over time, they recognized that I actually meant it. So people have to solicit the feedback that they need in order to grow. And if you ain't got a coach, if you call yourself a leader and you ain't got a coach, you ain't got a Dr. Ebony Green checking you on the regular, I'm sorry, you are doing it wrong. Because Dr. Ebony Green, Dr. Ebony Green, about the only person who can check me like all the way to the ground. Everybody else try to have a little bit of respect and be real nice about it. Ooh, if I ever wanted to see in the mirror, my friend and coach, Dr. Ebony Green, always let me know what was what.
I appreciate that. And it's so funny because I think you hit on something. So yes, and you're the same to me. And the piece that people miss sometimes is the relationship. Like we have a relationship, which is what allows me to say, hey, y'all, like, hey, boo, right? And vice versa. And I think when people are thinking about even this idea of coaching, who's the person that I can talk to and kind of take off any mask that there is and really kind of be vulnerable and transparent with, you can't do that absent of a relationship. And so I think the other piece when we're thinking about companies and corporations is while it's not realistic to say that I would know every single person in my company unless it's a small business. Like there's something to be said about building real relationships with people, right? Because even if when you call me or I call you to elicit feedback and you hurt my feelings, I think you at one point might have said like, and I hope it hurts, or vice versa, right? Because as someone who cares deeply about the person and the success, your expectation is that they figure it out and they get it together. And so within that is like, okay, even if, Dr. Jana says something to me that kind of makes me feel some kind of way, I still know it's couched in love, right? I know it's couched in wanting me to be first a better human and then second, a better worker, boss or whatever, right? And so I think a lot of times people, have leadership styles that is like 10,000 feet away from the people they work with. And I don't know if that's necessarily a great or bad quality. But here's the question I kind of think, we're coming to the end and I really want to kind of just figure out for you, right? I think every part of our life, every season, I feel like we have an opportunity to be better or better. We have an opportunity to be kinder or not. And I think for you, for me, I think we've prided ourselves on kind of figuring out and doing the work, even though it's been hard, it's been muddy, it's been messy, it's been painful. So it's a two-part question. Do you believe that it's possible for someone to be a better person, a kinder person without going through that process? And through the seasons, your evolution, what have been some of the things that you've kind of taken from them that have been the catalyst for you becoming a greater version of you year to year? That was a long question, but
no, I love it. That's a good one. I think that that thing that you said that I might have said, and I hope it hurts. It's because it's the pain that we metabolize into growth. Sometimes it takes a little bit of discomfort. Like there's not a lot of exponential growth that happens within the human condition if we're super comfortable. Like if we're coasting, if everything is super good, like we're drinking Mai Tais, we're chilling, right? That comfort zone becomes a rut and it's a little bit dangerous for development. It doesn't have to be, but if it's extended for too long and your blind spots are unchecked for a protracted period of time, then you will plateau in your development. There's not a lot of growth that happens there. And so whether it is metabolized pain, like we all have this both individual and collective opportunity to confront our shadows and address our traumas from our youth, right? Our childhood wounds, those things can help make us better leaders, because instead of suppressing the things that have harmed us in the past, we allow ourselves to do the meditation, do the therapy, work with the coach, address the things that have caused us harm. That puts us back in touch with our vulnerability. And the second you're in touch with your vulnerability, your capacity to empathize with the human condition and be there for other people as they learn, they grow, they suffer. You move more softly and more gently when you're in touch with your own wounded places. So sometimes as leaders, we feel like we've got to be stoic and we've got to just put on the armor and be as tough as we can possibly be, when in fact, being in relationship means that we have an exchange of energy that allows us to be, real, transparent, honest, so that when I do ultimately have to deliver some difficult feedback, it's coming from a person who's safe, because I've been able to be a container for the difficult things that you've gone through. And I've been able to model being a safe container for myself, because instead of suppressing my feelings and then allowing them to explode all over everybody because I didn't learn how to deal with them, I'm able to compassionately take care of myself. Self-care first. Once I am well, I have a better way of taking care of other people. So I think that even the people who might be able to move with kindness and softness as leaders at later stages of their development are plumbing the depths of historical pain, ancestral pain, childhood traumas, things like that. So even if it's not things that are happening that they're metabolizing in the present tense, there is something along the spectrum of the challenges of the human condition that inform that growth. So no, I don't think that people do it well without ever facing challenges, whether they are contemporary present challenges or challenges that are based on their history.
I love that. So here's my last question, right? I'm on a mission. Hello, kind soul. Our mission is to raise the vibration of kindness on a global scale, right? And so part of that mission is to kind of, I want to say, change the way we look at what leadership should look like in this world, right? I think we've all been conditioned and taught through various situations and experiences that leadership has to be a certain way, look a certain way. I don't think that model is serving us anymore, right? I think we are moving, our world is evolving and shifting and shaping in a way that our young people are saying, if you're not nice to me, I'm not working for you. If you can't engage me as a human being and recognize and care about me, I'm not dealing with you, right? There are all these things. And so my question to you is like, one, as we're kind of creating a brave new world, what's it going to take for our leaders to really understand that, and the older leaders in a little bit of time won't be the leaders. So what's it going to take for us to redefine that kindness is an essential component of leadership, so that when our leaders are out there building companies, creating solutions for the world, that we are seeing, respecting, and valuing the people who are alongside us, even if we are supervising them, to create that change? Like, what does it take?
It's a weird answer, but what it's going to take is it's going to take the empowerment of the collective, the empowerment of the masses, because we will get what we think we deserve. We will get what we demand. We will get what we vote for with our feet. If we keep allowing ourselves to be abused within the context of organizational structures that don't give a flying rip about us, then we will get more of that, because we're literally voting with our feet. So the more of us that feel empowered enough to say, you know what? I am worth more than this. I am worth being treated with kindness and respect. We have to start rewarding the companies, the leaders, the individuals, and the systems that treat us with that respect. And we need to be thinking about that, frankly, along the entire supply chain. So like, not just where I work and how I spend my time, but also how I spend my money. We need to pay attention to which of these companies, I don't like to buy jewelry anymore if I can't see the human being who made it. Like, I don't want to buy the mass produced this or that thing if I can help it. And it's going to take a long time to get to the point where every single thing that we get is ethically sourced. But ethically sourced means we stop spending our money with companies that we know are using child labor. We stop spending our money with companies that we know are violating human rights. And we do it all the time. And it's that a lot of that information has been hidden for so long. So we have to take responsibility as individuals for how we allow ourselves to be treated, and then how we allow the greater system to treat our fellow humans. And that means being informed, paying attention, and standing up when we need to stand up for ourselves and for others.
Man. I'm gonna have to end on that note. I appreciate you, Dr. Tiffany Jana, as they dropped the mic literally in front of us, right? I appreciate you being in community with me today. I appreciate you just sharing your gems and dropping them off for the young folks, the older folks that are going to be watching this podcast. Y'all, we have an opportunity in this world to really make a difference. And part of it starts with us just showing up and living in the space of knowing what's right and what's wrong and saying it loud with our full chest. And so, Dr. Jana, you have really helped us to kind of think through, like, what does this leadership have to look like? But more importantly, What is it that we have to do with ourselves to make sure that we are creating a world that's more just for everyone in it? So thank you so much for sharing the stage with me metaphorically today. And I look forward to hopefully being able to bring you back to share some more of your goodness. I appreciate you. Y'all have an amazing, amazing week. And we'll see you next week.